Okay, we're back again. We're through Salt. This can be chapter 7. When I turned into our parking lot, I saw Furman's car was parked, as it always was, way out in the parking lot so the customers could park closer to the front door. Knowing it was the right thing to do, I pulled my car beside his and killed the engine. A moment later, Miss Fine pulled her car in beside mine. We both got out of our cars and looked at our restaurant. "Not much to look at, is it?" she commented to me. "Not really," I said, looking at it closely. The electric sign that pointed customers to us had too many lights burned out. The words "truck stop" actually read "uck stop." That brought a disconcerting smile to my face. The windows were so dirty, people on the outside could not see the inside of the restaurant. The entire building needed to be painted. The yellow parking lines were almost completely gone. All in all, it looked like the owner just didn't care anymore. But we knew that was not the case. He simply didn't know what to do to turn things around. "I'll see if the owner has any light bulbs for the sign," I said. "Good idea. An uck stop is not a place I would want to eat," she said, and we both laughed. The door was already open when Miss Fine and I got to it, even though the sign on the door said we were closed today. A couple of waiters pulled up in their usual parking spots and got out. Then they looked and saw our cars out in the back 40, and they got back in their cars and moved into where ours were parked. The rest did the same thing when they arrived. By the time we all showed up, I realized how many people our little truck stop employed. There were almost 24 of us. Furman walked in carrying 2 5-gallon buckets of paint, set them down on the floor in front of us. 15 minutes later, we all knew what we were going to do, and we began. All that day, we scrubbed every inch of our restaurant. Floors, ceilings, walls, light fixtures, windows, doors, door jambs, vents, and fans. Everything in the restaurant was movable, was moved and cleaned behind, even though Furman and I had already cleaned them earlier. Once everything had been thoroughly cleaned, Furman pulled out a couple dozen rolls of masking tape and showed us how to tape the baseboards and door jambs for painting. It took us 2 full hours to tape everything that needed taping. Then we started painting. I was amazed at how fast the work was getting done, but then there were 24 of us working and not just Furman and me. My stomach was just about to let out a good growl when I smelled food cooking. Furman was in the kitchen preparing lunch for everybody, and from the smell of it, it was going to be good. About 20 minutes later, we heard the bell ring a good dozen times, so everybody put their paintbrushes and water or turpentine and made their way to the counter. Miss Fine snatched up the plates Furman had set on the counter and started handing them to each of us. Hamburgers and fries, we were all ready for them. What I thought was amazing, nobody was complaining. There were smiles everywhere and talk was animated. Everybody was happy. Something extraordinary was taking place in our restaurant, and we all knew it and were pleased about it. Once everyone had eaten, I grabbed up all the dishes and put them in the dishwashers to wash. It was funny. Normally someone would have to tell me to do it, but not now. Suddenly, I did not feel like a kid anymore. I was just a person trying to do his part of a thing that was much bigger than himself. It was like each of us employees were the walls holding up the ceiling of our restaurant. We each had to do our part, or the ceiling, the restaurant, would come tumbling down around us, and we would have nobody to blame but ourselves. After about 4 more hours, everything had been painted. I found some light bulbs and a ladder and went out to replace the bulbs that had burned out long ago in our sign. After I had replaced the outside of the sign and gotten the ladder, I turned to see our party had moved outside. The guys were painting the outside while the waitresses were cleaning the windows. Furman was up on the roof replacing shingles, and beside him there was a flag post with a terribly faded and shredded flag. Since he was up there by himself, I decided to go up and help him. When I walked up to him, he looked at me and smiled. I could see in his eyes he was pleased I had come up. "What can I do?" I asked him. "Hand more nails," he said, pointing to the bag of them. I handed him the bag of nails, and he said, "Furman knew you fixed sign." "How did you know?" "Juan's smart. Pay attention. Be successful in life. Wait, you see." "Why do you say that?" "You don't know me," I said. Furman finished hammering the nail in, and then looked right in my eyes and touched my chest where my heart is. "This still. Juan have big heart. I see big dreams. No thing, no matter how bad, can stop man with big dreams." "But I'm not a man, I'm just a boy." "When boy stop being boy?" when boy become man. Boy become man when he chooses to stop being boy. One man now. No one had ever called me a man before. In fact, everybody took pleasure in calling me a boy, but Furman called me a man. What was more was he meant it. And that made me want to be that much more of a man. Once we had finished the needed repairs on the roof, Furman and I came down, and he told the 6 to 2 shift to go home and be back in the morning for the regular shift. The rest of us stayed a couple more hours, putting everything back in place and putting any finishing touches on the place. When we were done, it was like a different restaurant. It took me a while once I got home to get all the paint off me and out of my hair, and then I fell into bed just knowing I would be asleep before my head hit the pillow. But that's not what happened. My mind was running like a well-oiled machine. All I could think of was the enormous change we had made in the restaurant. The change made me feel different. It was as if I had somehow gotten a promotion to a newer and better restaurant, one I was proud to be working in. Nothing like the one I had been working in, where it didn't matter to me if I wore a hat or not. It didn't matter to me what I wore beneath my apron. All that mattered to me had been the paycheck I would receive at the end of the week. But now, the paycheck didn't seem as important as it had before. Oh, sure, I wanted it, but it was not the primary purpose anymore. Now the restaurant was the primary focus. The restaurant was what mattered. Long after I was grown up and gone, the restaurant would still be serving customers. An idea began to form in my mind, and the more I thought about it, the more excited I became. But right now, I needed to get some sleep. My body was tired, and I had to do a lot in the morning. I turned out my light, and before I knew it, the sun was shining in my face. I'll see you tomorrow.